Season begins to heat up now. This past week, we had some games between the Counselors and the PCA Paladins. 18U boys action got started there with those two teams. First time those two teams had played each other for this new season, and it lived up to the expectations. That game's on the TSM Network now. We'll talk a little bit about that coming up this week. We have some other games that'll be interesting to see, and kind of seeing how this girls conference is going to pan out as well. We'll see some early stuff from that. We also have Coach Scott Sherman of the Meridian Flyers coming on with us later on in this show. This is the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. It begins right now. All right, here we go. This is the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show right here. I'm Trellis Williams. Just want to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button to the TSJW Network YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button right now. We got a lot of stuff going on the channel. Coming up this week, tomorrow night, got the Muddy River Counselors taking on the Meridian Flyers. That will be from Hickory. We're going to try our best to maybe do a stream. If not, we're going to try to post the recording afterwards. And then on Friday night, we actually have some football going on with the Terry Bulldogs football, and that will be live there from Pascagoula for that game. So we just got a lot of stuff going on here on the channel, so please be sure to hit that subscribe button. But going last week, we had some games around the league. November 7th, the Jackson Victors and the Hattiesburg Forerunners matched up down in Hattiesburg. The Victors able to get the win in 18U boys, 46-40. Now this was a game that would be a surprise. Jackson has not beaten Hattiesburg in a few years in this 18U boys division. They're able to get this win by 6, 46-40. In Hattiesburg, Jackson getting that win there. And just to remind you, we cover 18U divisions, 18U girls and 18U boys. That's what we had, 18U boys that night, no girls for the Victors. The following night, November 8th, that's a Friday night, Meridian and Jackson. So Jackson right back at it again. They take on the Meridian Flyers. They get the win 74-41 in 18U boys. Victors getting the win in that ball game. And that was a surprising one, too, a surprising score to come through. Don't know any details about that, but that would be interesting to see. Kind of want to talk to some coaches about that. I guess we're going to have Scott Sherman on. We can ask him about that as well, even though he heads up the girls program there. Coach Lewis Coker's the head coach of the boys for the Meridian Flyers. So then the following day, that was the Saturday. This was the MSAHA game of the week. Was the 18U boys but then we also had 18U girls, which was interesting to see. The Counselors and the Paladins. Now the Counselors had started their 18U girls season off, taking on the Macomb Gators, a game in which they were able to get a big advantage early, leading by as many as 40 points in the first half. Taking on PCA on the road, this was going to be a big challenge for them, and that a challenge it was. PCA took a big lead early. Counselors tried to claw their way back in, but PCA able to hold them off, winning the game by 13 points, 54-41. PCA back at it again, looking good, and have a good player in Cameron Covert. The coach's daughter also having a lot of other players that are coming along nicely as well for the PCA Paladins girls basketball team. They get the win over the Counselors 54-41. PCA still has not lost in conference as of yet. 18U boys, this was the MSAHA game of the week. The Muddy River Counselors, the PCA Paladins. This was a repeat of last year's championship ball game, which the Counselors won. The Counselors are the defending champions. Counselors get this win 62-53. PCA led after the first quarter and at halftime, but the Counselors able to make an explosion. They led by as many as 15 points there in the second half, and they get the win by 9 points, 62-53. This is going to be a good matchup. PCA's got a good basketball team. They lost a couple of guys from last year, but they also gained Scotty Covert. And, of course, Coach Kevin Covert is now the head coach there for the PCA Paladins. We had him on the show for the first week, and so you can check that show out. It's right here on the TSJW Network YouTube channel. So it's exciting stuff there. PCA Muddy River will be a good matchup. They play again in Raymond. The Counselors will host on December 14th. So they'll match up once again in about a month. Then looking over this past Monday, the Muddy River Counselors back at it again, taking on the Hattiesburg Forerunners. We had 18U girls action, which was close for a long time. The Counselors were able to pull away late with a win 45-35 on the road. This was only the second time that the Muddy River Counselors ever beat Hattiesburg in girls basketball. And the first time they did it on the road, they were able to prevail by 10 points. And 18U boys, the Counselors were able to take care of business, winning by 27, 68-41. Hattiesburg gave them a run for their money there early on, but the Counselors able to get some shots to go down. And some good play from the Counselors, able to hold off the Forerunners 68-41. Counselors did have an injury with John Crenshaw going down with a sprained ankle in that game. And it was not a good thing for the Counselors there, not good for John either. So we hope that he makes a quick recovery there. But Counselors able to get the win. Final score 68-41. Those are all the scores from last week, and now going into this upcoming week, we have some games coming up as well, including the Muddy River Counselors and the Meridian Flyers, which will be tomorrow night in Hickory. We'll be bringing that ball game to you. 18U girls, 18U boys. We'll be bringing the whole night to you, but 18U girls, 18U boys. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but first I do want to go ahead and bring in our guest, Coach Scott Sherman of the Meridian Flyers girls basketball team. So, Coach Scott, we appreciate you joining us right here on the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show.
Trellis, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to sit here and chat with you.
For sure. As always, definitely appreciate it. So, I know that this year y'all started off 1-2 in conference, but you've already taken on PCA and Laurel. So you've gone ahead and started off with some of the toughest competition in the league. PCA only a 3-point loss, Laurel a 9-point loss. So both single digits. You're able to handle Hattiesburg 42-21. Your team's been competitive the last few years, for sure. Laurel was an outlier last year. They won every game by over 30 points in the league. This year they're still very good. But it's not the same as it was last year, as we can all tell, we can all attest to there. So where do you see your girls at this point in the season right now?
It's going to be an interesting season. It's still early in the season, and a lot of the programs are still figuring out who they are, what they've got.
That's right.
We're no exception to that. I know PCA, I believe we were their first conference game, and very much they were figuring out what they had just like we were. So it was a really interesting matchup. A lot of coaching going on during the game and just emphasizing playing points and fundamentals. And it was a tight game. A lot of surprises. And you know, with Salome not playing for PCA this year, expected that they wouldn't have that kind of leadership power, and saw some players step out and take on that leadership role for them. And that was really exciting to see that, you know, they're going to be a contender this year. With Laurel, same thing. They graduated a whole bunch. That's the same position we're in this year. I've got 7 of my 8 varsity roster, our seniors, graduating this year.
That's right.
And so excited to see where they're going to go as we brought in a new player and kind of trying to shift from 5 or 6 strong to 8 strong, and seeing how that develops for our team this season. It's been a great start, been a fun start.
Yes, and so far I know that you're big on getting those girls developed over the course of the season, and what you really want to see is your team peak right there at the end. And I know that stamina is a big thing there at the end of the season. Right. You know, there's going to be a little bit of a different setup with the tournament. So with double elimination, you might find yourself playing 3 games on that Friday. Right. You have a little bit different of a setup here now, but just kind of talk about getting those girls ready for the end of the season. This is a year that you guys could do it because, I mean, you got a lot of experience. You got experience over a lot of these other teams you're playing against.
We do, and it helps us. I'll borrow a phrase from Cliff Jenkins. He and I were talking after we played the other night, and about about how we use games as practice. And he said he told his girls, this is just fancy practice.
That's right.
I mean, I used that phrase the very next game with my girls. This is just fancy practice. To a certain extent, all the way until we go to Monroe in January, every game is practice. And we care about the wins and loss records, but it's about what happens, and hopefully you all gel coming out of Monroe and coming into the end of the season tournaments and being able to play cohesively and as a team. And this year is going to be no exception for us. We'll be competing and trying to win every conference game. But at the end of the day, if I have to choose between winning a game and a teaching point that will make us a step better the following game or later in the season, I'm going to choose that teaching step.
Yes, and so now tomorrow night you take on the Muddy River Counselors. This is a team that your girls have beat every time, other than one game last year. Of course, they've added some players, but you guys are looking good as well. And your girls have a lot of experience over there, girls, for sure. And you got some older players that definitely y'all do a good job of limiting mistakes there. So just kind of preview that game for us. Obviously, both teams want to kind of see where they are. You guys kind of know a little bit more where you are than the Counselors do, just based on who y'all have played. Y'all know that y'all can compete with the top teams. And so this is a good opportunity to kind of see what's going on. So preview that game for us, please.
I think for the Flyers, for our girls, it's going to be a lot about their mindset coming in, not taking anything for granted, not taking the fact that the last game we lost to you and the only game we've lost to you was the last one we played, right, in the championship tournament series last year. But I think the girls know that they have that experience and have that skill, but they're still learning how to not let that affect their play and how to play to their full potential. And so if our girls come in with the right mindset and they're ready to work hard and they're ready to play to that potential, then I think they'll do well. On the flip side, I've watched a couple of the games that you broadcast for the Muddy River girls. They're high energy. You guys like to press. You guys like to force bad decisions, and it doesn't take much. I mean, one or two players not playing and not communicating right, and it's anybody's ball game. So I think it's going to be a really fun night tomorrow night. Looking to see if our basketball age proves to be the winning factor, or if your intensity and proves to be the winning factor for you. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna definitely looking forward to that. Also, did want to talk like from a more broad Meridian Flyers perspective. We do plan on bringing Coach Lewis Coker onto the show this season as well, just as we did last year. But just kind of talking a little bit about the boys as well. I know that they were able to beat Hattiesburg. We saw that score from Jackson as well. Just kind of talk about what you've kind of seen from the boys' side, because I did kind of want to ask about that Jackson game. I wasn't able to talk to either side about that.
Yeah, so the Jackson game, I think, is going to be a little bit of an outlier. 3 of our starting varsity players were out that night, and so we had a lot of the younger players playing, and really missed having those starters there for that game. I think that had a big impact on the score, and just on the style of play too. But I think for the boys this year, this is the first year for Lewis, as Lewis has been coaching, that he's got a couple of players that he is limiting only to varsity play. In the past couple of years, he's had a number of kids. Our starting varsity roster, with 1 or 2 exceptions, also played JV. This year, he's trying to focus more on developing his JV squad. And so his varsity group, they're getting better work at communicating. So for us this year, for the varsity boys, looking to see them develop beyond Brody and Cooper, kind of taking those shots and driving the paint, and everybody relying on them, to 5 boys playing the game. It's been fun to see some unexpected people show up. Brand new player this year showing up in the very first game of the season, sinking a couple threes and not being afraid to take those shots. Blake's a big guy, baseball player, but coming in new, and he provides some size inside for us that we haven't had in the past. And so as they learn to work together, it's going to be a fun season. We're looking forward to seeing what they can pull out. As far as tomorrow night, Um, I mean, from our perspective, Muddy River's got the team to beat. You're kind of like the Laurel team. Can't remember the last time I saw a 100+ score.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely have been looking good. Of course, taking that injury was tough. So you got to regroup. You have to have the next man up mentality, for sure, for the counselors. But we'll have that as well. But I mean, last year, guys on you guys' boys team had to step up with Cooper going down last year, and
Yep.
so might have really helped that 16U tournament run that was made was big as well. So I'll be definitely interested in seeing. And when I saw that Jackson Meridian score, Jackson's been doing well. They beat Hattiesburg, but I just saw a 35-point win, and I was like, oh
That's right.
wow, okay.
Yeah.
So okay, that's it's good to hear. But Coach,
So,
we appreciate. You good?
so just to give a little perspective, we played both Laurel and Jackson in non-conference games in a little round robin tournament earlier this season. Jackson beat us. It was a really close game. We beat Laurel. It was a really close game. I think on any given day for those two teams, that's a pretty even matchup.
That's right, and that's what we're actually going to end up talking about. That Laurel and Jackson play tomorrow, so that should be an interesting game as well that we'll talk about on the show too. Well, Coach, we appreciate you joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on the show. I've enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thank you very much, Coach, and we appreciate Coach Scott Sherman joining us right here on the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button to the TSJW Network YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button right now. So we're going to talk a little bit about some games that we have coming up next week, and we just mentioned it kind of a little bit just then. Laurel and Jackson taking each other on tomorrow night. And we were just talking to Coach that could be a very good matchup there, as we saw both those teams had played Meridian. He was talking about some preseason games where they were all playing pretty close with each other. Laurel and Jackson. This will be in Jackson, in Byram, where Laurel's going to have to travel and get this win. The Victors have really been working from those young divisions on up, and their 14U program has been very good the last couple of years. And they've just been moving on up through. Made the championship game a couple years ago in 14U. Were a really good 14U team last year. And so those guys just get older, and so they're getting better. Did not lose any major player from last season. So the Jackson Victors definitely getting better. But Laurel's a tall team. Laurel's a team that last year they finished third in the conference, able to knock off Hattiesburg in that tournament. Really played close with PCA, nearly made it to the championship. Just missed out as PCA beat them out. But Laurel's a tough team too. Laurel beat Meridian last week 70-61. So that was a 9-point win, but a very close win there. So Laurel and Jackson should be interesting. I don't know what to say about it. I don't know what to say prediction-wise whatsoever. I'll just be very interested in seeing the scores there. Also tomorrow night, the Muddy River Counselors and the Meridian Flyers. We talked to Coach about his team taking on the Muddy River Counselors and girls. This will be a good opportunity for the Counselors to see where they stand in the league. Last year, the Counselors have always been bottom of the league in the past. This year, 2-1 in conference right now. So it definitely does not look like they'll be bottom of the league this year, with a sizable win over Macomb, and then a win last week or this past week against Hattiesburg. Loss was to PCA. Now you take on a Meridian team that played closer with PCA than you did, if you're thinking from the Counselors' perspective there. Meridian hosting the Counselors, just like we were talking about, last game they played each other, the Counselors won on a buzzer-beating 3 in the tournament. Meridian's trying to come right back at them and get this win here. But this is early in the season, so you never know what's going to happen. And when tournament time comes around, that's when it starts to really rubber hits the road. But be excited to see that. The 18U boys, Counselors, and Meridian Flyers. Counselors right now 5-0, and Meridian going to try to get the upset tomorrow night. The Counselors now without John Crenshaw for the time being. So the Meridian Flyers could have a chance to put a little dent in the Counselors, see how the Counselors can respond. But the Counselors looking pretty good right now, and you definitely will have to go with the defending champs on that one. In Hickory, So then November 16th, which is the Saturday, Laurel and PCA. So 18U girls, that is one that you would want to see. Neither team has lost in conference yet. These two teams this has been the championship game the last few seasons. And so Laurel and PCA is one to keep your eye on. Definitely would, I have no idea what to predict on this one. I know PCA has a good few players that can do a lot of damage. I've not seen Laurel's girls team yet. And so just by the scores, though, they're good. They played Lamar Christian in a non-conference game last night and got the win 33-31. And now they got Coach Cliff Jenkins as their coach. He's a good coach, won championships in this league. So Laurel's a force to be reckoned with. Will be interesting to see on Saturday. I can't really say anything about that. 18U boys, Laurel and PCA. I would definitely think that PCA's got the edge on this one. The Paladins look pretty good. In my opinion, I think they got better from last year. Just by what I saw against the Counselors. I mean, both of those teams are trying to make strides forward. PCA has it, just in my opinion. PCA looks very good. They can compete for the championship in this league. The Counselors are the team to beat right now, the number one team. Laurel going to try to give them a run for their money, but edge will definitely go to PCA here. But that will be in Lacombe, those two games. Then 18U boys, also on Saturday, we got the Tupelo Titans and the Jackson Victors. Now, I have been able to see Tupelo. I've not seen the Victors. I've seen some scores from the Victors, but Tupelo Titans took on the Muddy River Counselors. Counselors were able to win that one 81-25. But I will say, you had an extraordinary game from Michael Williams, a career night for him. And so that kind of goes along with that inflated score there from the Counselors. And so be interesting to see there in Jackson what comes of that. That is on Saturday, the Tupelo Titans and the Jackson Victors. Also on Saturday, Hattiesburg Forerunners and the Macomb Gators, 18U girls. I would say that Hattiesburg has the strong edge on that one. Hattiesburg has some players that have some experience. Macomb in a building up stage of their program, and so we'll have to keep our eye on that. I would take Hattiesburg in that matchup for 18U girls. 18U boys, that's one to keep a lookout on. I don't know what to say about that one. I would probably edge to Macomb, but I will say this, though. Monday night, Hattiesburg and the Muddy River Counselors faced off. Of course, we broadcasted that game. Hattiesburg was able to shoot pretty well. Charlie Cotton, a contributor on this show, he knocked down 6 3-pointers. I mean, his shot was looking real good. And they also have Keller Russell on their team that can shoot the basketball as well. If their shooters are knocking down shots, then they might be able to knock off Macomb, but Macomb's got plenty of height advantage on them. And when I say plenty of height, it's an extreme height advantage. They're the tallest team in the league, while Hattiesburg may be the shortest. And so those two teams taking each other on in Summit, Mississippi. I think I'm going to give Macomb the edge in this matchup here on Saturday, but I'll be looking out for that score. The following Monday, Hattiesburg will take on Jackson once again. That was a really close one, 46-40. The Victors won that one. This time, I don't know. I think Hattiesburg might be able to come back at them. I don't know. Sometimes when you win a game, it might cause you to have a letdown the next time. But this one will be hosted by Jackson, Hattiesburg Forerunners, and the Jackson Victors. I think it's going to be another good game. Last time it was 46-40 in the Victors' direction. Hattiesburg is yet to win a game, so they are really going to be hungry for a win. Of course, they're going to be looking for that on Saturday against Macomb. Then November 19th, we've got Muddy River Counselors and the Laurel Nighthawks matchup. And looking at 18U girls, you got the defending champions, the Laurel Lady Nighthawks, and then the Muddy River Counselors. Now, that one will be interesting. We'll have to see how the Counselors do against Meridian first. Based on that result is kind of how you would preview the Laurel game. So it's hard to preview the Laurel game before you see the game tomorrow night. But Laurel's going to be a big challenge for the Counselors. Laurel is a team that, even though they lost a lot of girls from the team last year, they still have 2 of those 5 starters on that dominant team. Then they've got some girls off the bench that were on dominant 16U teams. So Laurel definitely would probably have the edge, and they're hosting the game, and it's pretty hard to win down there at Laurel. So that's definitely, Laurel has an advantage there. Counselors do have a team that can play though, and so you know will be an interesting game to see, but definitely more interested at this point in seeing that game tomorrow first before we talk about that one. 18U boys, the Muddy River Counselors and the Laurel Nighthawks. Every time the Counselors go down to take on Laurel and boys, it always ends up being something interesting. I mean, last year, Laurel kept it close there at Salem Heights for a while, and then the Counselors were able to pull away, get a 20-point win. The year before, the Counselors played Laurel at home and won by like 50-something points, but then when they went on the road, won by 17. So this is how much of a swing that you can see between these two teams when you go on the road. So we'll have to see how it goes. And they're at Salem Heights Baptist Church, and this is a tough place for the road teams to play. So Counselors and Nighthawks will be interesting, and Lord willing, it'll be Counselors TV right here on the TSJW Network YouTube channel. So if I was to pick, I would have to say that Laurel and PCA is my pick for game of the week this week. That is Saturday. Got 18U girls action, which is that's probably the game of the week that I'm looking at. Is that Laurel Lady Nighthawks and the PCA Paladins. Those are the two teams that have not lost in conference yet, and now you can kind of see where do those teams line up with each other, and what we're looking at here. Will the defending champions lose a game? I mean, the thing about Laurel is that they lost in 2023. PCA won the championship, but Laurel lost all their players right there at the end of the season, and then in the tournament even they lost their players, and then PCA was able to win. It was a very good PCA team, but Laurel also lost a lot of their players. Last year, Laurel was dominant. So that really the Lady Nighthawks have been dominant for 3 years, really. Ever since 2021, they've been the team to beat. And so PCA trying to challenge that, trying to take over. PCA was the team to beat before Laurel was. So these two teams have been dominating the girls division for a while. And so now you see teams like Meridian trying to get in on the action. And if the Counselors can get on the action, they'd love to get in on the action as well, up there at the top of that 18U girls division. But I would say that Laurel Lady Nighthawks and the PCA Paladins would be the game of the week right here on the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. We appreciate you joining us right here for the show. I'm Trellis Williams, and we look forward to joining back with you next week. We will try to announce what time we'll be live because we got other things going on here on the channel to see what time. But we appreciate you staying up late with us right here on the TSJW Network YouTube channel. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button right now. This is the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show, the third week. We out.